Welcome to Haunted Hospitality, Southern Stories told by Spooky Gingers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Zoey. And we both have stories for you today.
Because we're in our Haunted College's month-long August series, y'all.
Woo!
Woo!
Yes. We would do our normal How's the Life section. We will do that in a minute. But we have something very tantalizing in front of us that we'd like to do. So we're going to jump straight into something Southern. Mm-hmm. So for today's Something Southern, I have made us some mint juleps.
Yes, and I've never had anything like this before.
No, me neither. And hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I would have edited the film that we made, the film, and
A very professionally made film where I was definitely not bending backwards over your counter trying to get everything in the shot.
Exactly that one. And so we can release the TikTok that we're going to make at the same time. So you can watch us make it as chaotically as we are.
It was surprisingly chaotic.
It was surprisingly.
I did not expect that.
So I won't go into how to make the mint julep, but we have a mint julep in front of us. Robin and I have never either had ever a mint julep. So
that was the most complicated, nonsensical way to say that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So
are we ready?
Well, first of all, mint julep is a very Southern drink. It was developed in the South. That's how it's something Southern. And there is a alcohol in here that is from New Orleans. It's called Southern Comfort. So I promise you this is Southern and not just us having an excuse to make an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, don't add us.
All right, let's take our first sips.
We need to count down. 3, 2, 1.
I don't get a lot of mint.
I get some mint.
Some mint, but not a lot of mint.
I can this is definitely an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
No. What do you think? I like it. And there's a lot of flavors going on here.
It's very peachy.
The peach is coming through strong, which is not a bad thing.
Mm-mm. There's the mint. Okay.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I like it a lot too.
I can see why people would drink this on their front porches in the South in the summer.
Right. Yeah.
If this wasn't an air-conditioned apartment, I feel like.
I think next time, instead of using fresh mint, maybe, I have a mint plant now.
Jerry.
Who
we just shredded.
Well, we gave him a haircut too. Let's say that. We gave him a haircut.
Too.
As well.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. So, I gave him a haircut, but I think I would have put mint extract in the simple syrup that I used, and then also put the mint sprigs in there, or maybe get a mortar and pestle and actually really grind up the mint before putting it in.
I think that's good. Did you know that apparently extracts take a lot of the plant to make?
Really?
Yeah, so this is actually the environmentally friendly version of it. And for that sense, I really appreciate it. And also, it doesn't need to be like too heavily mint. Right. I feel like the balance of flavors I have right now are really good.
Yeah, it's just, if it's called a mint julep, I want it to be a little bit more minty, but it's good. It's refreshing.
Yeah, very refreshing.
And it's very alcoholic, and that's why it's in this episode and not the next episode. That way Robin can drive home.
Yes, but it does mean that we might get a little funny this episode.
I didn't think about that.
I always think about that.
Okay.
Because that's always what happens if we do that.
So we'll see, because there is literally sugar in here.
Basically, this is a pretty fun ep, at least from the things that I have to say.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good lead-off point.
Yes.
That being said, Zoe, you have a very fun life update.
I do.
And I just need you to talk about it right now.
Okay.
Do it now.
Okay. So I have some soup.
What kind of soup?
Well, if you've been paying attention to our social medias, I got a cat, and her name is Soup. So she's Chicken Noodle Soup, because the reason I named her Soup is because of Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul. You know those books that...
It's just Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Whatever. Okay. Chicken Soup for the Soul. So I didn't know those were Christian books until like 2 years ago, maybe like 10 years ago.
Depending on which ones you get, they're not necessarily overt.
Right.
In my experience.
Like, I know, like, the story that really sticks with me on that one is the, it was a guy who was blind, and he was in a bunk bed in a hospital, or no, he was just in a hospital with another man, and, the other man, there was a window in the hospital, and the other man would describe what he could see from outside the window to the blind man, and the other man ended up passing away at the end of the story. And the whole time he's been saying, like, there's children playing in the playground and all of that. And then, like, the nurse comes in and the blind man's like, hey, can you describe what's happening out the window? And the nurse goes, it's just a brick wall. Because the window just shows a brick wall. And so, like, that story's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so I named her Soup after chicken noodle soup for the soul. Or chicken soup for the soul. And, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can I just say, she is a sweetie.
She's so sweet. She is adorable and kind. She's very timid.
Yes.
So she was out here. She warmed up to Robin, but then we had our food delivery and they knocked on the door, and so she's now in the bedroom, and that was like an hour ago. So
I think in about a month, she's gonna like just be the most, within these walls, the most outgoing cat.
Yeah, I'm concerned though, because I feel like she's gonna regress a little when Kari and I go to New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm gonna have my mom and my brother come over and like just house sit a little bit. And I'm not going to say the dates on the podcast. We'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
But I just feel like when we're in Jersey, she might regress a little. But when we come back, we'll work with her again.
Yeah. I think she'll bounce back pretty quickly.
Yeah. But so how's your life?
It's good. It's good. My life update, I mean, you know, it's once a week. I can't have fun things happening. I mean, I have fun things happening, but like they're not like updates. But anyway, Zoey cut my hair, my bangs.
Yeah.
And I asked her to do so, and it was very nice, and I did not specify what length I like them to be. So now I don't have exactly baby bangs, but I definitely have kindergartner bangs.
Oh.
Which means they're like mid-forehead. And the thing is with Zoey, she was like, oh, they'll get longer because my hair, it gets longer because she has thick, beautiful, luscious hair. And I have like thinnest hair. In fact, actually, while she was cutting my hair, she said, oh my God, your hair is so thin, which is just what you love to hear from your stylist.
Hey, I've never been to beauty school.
So they're going to shrink up and curl, but I'm figuring I'll use a hair straightener. But you know what? This is just one of the things that happens in life. And you know what? It's just a fun story. And that's
mutilated Robin's face. It's okay.
You didn't mutilate my face this time. Last time you stabbed me in the eye. This time, I'm fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're developing well with sight only in one eye.
That would be so funny.
She has sight in both of her eyes.
Yeah.
It was a very light stab.
My lid, well, you didn't even know what happened, actually. My lid was closed, but it wasn't necessarily light, honestly, and she didn't even know what happened, so I like cursed at her and I told her to stop. But we're fine. It's fine. Everything's fine, and my bangs are now really short.
Robin is planning my murder.
Don't tell them that.
I honestly was surprised that you were like, hey, can you cut my bangs? I'm like, she wants me to try again?
Honestly, I'll probably do it another time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, last time I learned not to stab you in the eye.
The thing is, you did a really good job with the length last time.
Yeah. But, because I was terrified after I'd stabbed you in the eye, and I'm like, I don't want to cut your bangs anymore.
All right, well, anyway, thank you, Zoey, for being a good friend and cutting my hair and donating a towel to the cause.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, you'll wash it. But
No, I'm just going to collect the fur. I'm going to collect the hair left behind and sniff it all night long.
Okay, Phantom Barber.
Nice callback.
Thank you. It took me a second to think of it, and I was really proud when I did.
Yeah, I could hear that second. I'm gonna, usually, so, trade secret listeners, Robin and I aren't as witty as we seem because...
Do we seem witty?
Because...
I mean, I always hope so, but...
When we're recording, there's a solid, 2 seconds before one of us says something kind of funny. But when I'm editing, I take out the pauses, and so it sounds like we're really quick with it, but we're not. So this time I'm going to leave that gap in.
Okay, cool. Just so they can know. You had an inside scoop on our, process? Zoey's process.
Yes.
So, Zoey, speaking of your process and the fruits of our labor, there's a review.
Yes, we have a review. So we got a 5-star review from Tiff Hibbs.
Hey, Tiff.
Hey. Their title is Stop What You're Doing and Listen! Exclamation point. If you love all things spooky, true crime, paranormal, etc., you need to stop and give Haunted Hospitality a binge. Great hosts, content, and blog. 10 out of 10.
Thank you, Tiff.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate it very, very much.
Can I just say, the way I have my Apple podcasting up so I can see the review as well, it is not full screen, so it cut off some of her title, and so her title was, just stop what you're doing and list, ... Everybody, list now. Think about your to-do list and do it.
Well, see, I screenshotted it and put it into the Word doc.
Oh.
So.
You're just so prepared all the time. You have everything written down.
Including my life update.
Yeah, I wing it, and I'm just very lucky you cut my bangs this time.
Yep.
I mean, what would I have said beforehand? It would have just been 2 minutes
Soup.
of silence. Oh, yeah, I was going to say I met Soup. Oh, now I got to think of something for next time, because I can't use that for next time. All right. Well, this is good.
So, we are doing our college experience this month. Yes. So we're going to cover spooky colleges, haunted colleges. And in most of the episodes, both Robin and I are going to cover 2 different colleges, but in the same state. Mm-hmm. However, in this episode, we're going to cover our alma mater. Can you say the word?
Alma mater? We're going to cover our alma mater, the University of South Carolina.
Yes. And so, Robin has a story for you. I have a story for you, and then Robin has a personal story from you.
Because I have a very possibly haunted experience at the University of South Carolina campus.
Yes, because she lived in an older dorm, and I was forced to live in one of the most expensive dorms.
It was also the nicest dorm. Like yours was. Mine was not.
No, I think Patterson was probably the best dorm.
You were the second best.
Yeah, second best. Okay. I had ants in mine.
Oh, okay. I don't think we had an ant problem. We had a bunch of dead ladybugs, so.
I had to bundle a tissue and stick it in the corner and then tape over that tissue to stop the ants from coming in. I probably should have just told somebody.
Yeah, you probably should have. They probably would have taken care of it really quickly.
Yeah. Can I tell you a horror story real quick? This is my USC haunted story.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so I decided I wanted to try a Monster for the first time while in college.
A Monster energy drink?
Yes.
Okay.
So I tried it, and I had about 3 sips, and then I could feel my heart beating. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm probably super allergic to this. I'm just going to pour this into my water bottle, and I'm going to drink the rest of it later, because I didn't want to have a heart attack, I
love that your thought is, I'm allergic to this, I'm going to drink it later.
Listen.
Okay.
So I put it in my water bottle. I close it up. And I put it on my desk. My desk is right next to this window that the ants are coming in. Uh-huh. And Monsters are very sugar.
Yeah.
I come back that day, and I go to take a sip of the Monster. And I'm like, that sip was rather crunchy.
Oh my god.
And I hold the bottle up to the light, and it's filled with ants. Just completely speckled with ants in the straw, in the bottle.
I legit almost threw up right there. Okay.
Yeah. So I just threw the entire bottle away.
Well, yeah. I mean, what else would you do?
I mean, it was a good bottle, and I was so proud of this bottle because it was the first bottle I ever bought. It was the first thing I bought myself with my own money.
Okay. I thought you meant a plastic water bottle.
No.
And I was like, just throw the plastic water bottle away. I'm very sorry that happened to the first ever thing you bought with your money.
Yes, with money I earned from a job.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I tell you about the third-eyed man now?
Sure, yeah. So let's go to Robin's horror story now.
Yes, and this is not my personal haunting. This was recommended by Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. You recommended it a while ago.
I think when we released episode 1.
You recommended it in the way back, and I thought it'd be perfect to do for this USC episode, so I kept it in my pocket.
Which tells you how long we've been planning our college palooza.
We've been planning this since before we recorded an episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing, dear listeners, you need to know about USC and the Columbia area in general is that there are tunnels underneath.
Yes. Most people don't know about these tunnels.
I feel like it gets around to people who live in USC and Columbia, but you have to... I didn't know about them until I went to USC. And then everybody was like, there's tunnels under the university, you know that.
I didn't know about them until you were doing research for this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Zoe, have you seen the movie Us, directed by Jordan Peele?
Yes. I have not seen Get Out, but I've seen Us.
Okay. Every time I see Us, I think about USC and Columbia.
Okay.
Because the whole idea is there's an underground world with tunnels. And in Us, it has doppelgangers. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. I think it's pretty obvious from the opening scene. And hopefully in real life, it doesn't have doppelgangers.
Yay!
But oh my goodness, I was so glad that I saw that movie while I was living in another city. Because if I saw it while I lived in Columbia, I'd be like, dun dun. So, it's also pretty obvious. I don't know, Zoe, how you didn't get that there were tunnels. Because when you walk around USC, there is steam coming from the ground quite often.
Well, that's the way USC gets power. They have the steam houses.
Well, they go through steam tunnels. So a lot of these tunnels were actually repurposed to be used for steam.
I just figured they were pipes in the ground.
No, it's like, I think they partially use the catacombs, which is, this is called the catacombs. If you ever hear about the catacombs
of USC.
This is what they're talking about.
Because the original catacombs are in France.
Okay, well. And then steam comes out of these things really big. And so, like, I never knew exactly, like, why steam was coming out of them. And I would just, like, be walking through and suddenly get a blast. And I'd be like, oh, because it was, like, right in front of, like, how I would have to get to my dorm.
And it always smelled bad, too.
It always smelled bad. The only times I liked it is when it was a cold, cold winter late night. And I would be like, oh, I'm going to walk through the bad-smelling steam. And then I would. And then I'd be like, I'm sick with myself, but also warmth. Like, fleeting warmth. Okay, but there's a story that there's a man who lives in the tunnels.
Okay.
A man with 3 eyes. The third eye man. I'm going to tell you the story of the third eye man and the 3 occurrences he is most known for.
Can I just say, that's such an unoriginal name for him.
The third eye man?
Yeah. Like, come on. You couldn't come up with that. Not you, but whoever originally named him. Like, Steve. You know? I don't know.
You want to name him Steve?
The third-eyed man, Steve.
Oh my god. I feel like there's a guy with a third eye over there. Let's just call him Steve for simplicity.
Yep.
Okay, so, we don't exactly know why the tunnels were made, first off, but it's possible that it was for transportation of things coming from the river, but it is kind of a mystery, which is fun because they're everywhere. The first time we know about the third eye man, it is November 12th, 1949.
49, wow.
1949, yeah, it's way back. 2 students are walking in front of Longstreet Theatre at the very precise time of 10:43 p.m. at night. And they see a man dressed in silver in front of the theater, and they see him go into a manhole cover.
Okay.
Well, I guess he took the cover out and went into the manhole.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of these guys is Christopher Nichols, class of 1953, who wrote about it in the Daily Gamecock because he was a writer for the newspaper. The Daily Gamecock is the student newspaper that comes out of USC. He referred to him in his writings as the sewer man.
Wait, so this was in 43?
1949.
49. Okay.
It was 10:43 p.m.
So he was a freshman, because you said he was a class of 53. Yeah, I was getting numbers mixed up in my head. I'm like, so he went there 10 years before he graduated? That's a long senior.
Okay, Nichols. No.
Okay.
So they see him, and he's not yet known as a third eye man because
they didn't see his face.
Yeah, or like maybe you weren't close enough, and maybe you would just think, oh, that's something on his forehead. Because I also heard that it wasn't like a big eye.
Right.
But people were like, it's still an eye, though. Okay, so on April 7th, 1950, a police officer is around Longstreet Theatre, this time behind Longstreet Theatre. By the way, Longstreet Theatre is haunted. We should probably do a thing about that.
That's actually in my portion.
Yes! I'm going to clap. Yes! Okay, so he is behind Longstreet Theatre, and this guy sees that there is, like, raw chicken parts and feathers. Like, somebody tore a chicken a part.
And that's like sacrilegious at USC, where we're the Gamecocks,
yeah.
which I don't know if everybody knows this. A gamecock is a fighting chicken.
I love that. Yes. And so maybe that was like, could have been Clemson. I don't know. That's just me putting that out there.
Well, there was the USC Clemson riots, I think,
Really?
in the 80s. It's what started Tiger Burn.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Okay. So this guy sees chicken parts and feathers strewn about, and then he goes to report what happened. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, well, why didn't he just call it in? Why do you have to leave? And then I realize this is 1950.
Yeah, no cell phones.
No cell phones. So he goes to report it, and then he comes back, and he sees a man dressed in silver clothes crouched over the chicken. Like, over the chicken parts.
Uh-huh.
I think this guy was eating the chicken, but I don't know.
Raw?
And, yeah.
That was sitting on the ground?
Yeah.
Ugh.
The salmonella of it all, really.
I know.
And this guy, his head is bent forward, okay?
Uh-huh.
Then he lifts his head up, and guess what he sees on his forehead?
A horn.
An eye.
What?
Another eye.
The third-eyed man has a third eye?
The third-eyed man has a third eye, and he's, like, described as gross and misshapen. And so let me tell you what I'm getting from this.
Okay.
The Phantom of the Opera.
What?
Okay, think about it like this. Okay, so Phantom of the Opera lives in the opera house. He hides from everybody because he doesn't like his face.
Okay.
The third-eyed man lives in a very crowded area. He hides from everybody because he doesn't like his face.
Maybe he does like his face. He's just been bullied for his face, so he hides so that he won't be bullied.
Oh.
But he thinks he's very beautiful.
I like that.
Okay.
Except the chicken part really does disturb me.
Yeah, no.
The officer got scared when he saw him.
Oh, no.
he ran away to get help from other officers.
Oh.
So I guess this is him getting back up for the second time.
Uh-huh.
But when the guys come back, by that point, the third-eyed man had gone into the tunnels.
Okay.
And the other officers didn't believe that officer. They were like, okay, well, you made this up, or you are probably... Because it said he was kind of hyperventilating a bit. So my guess is maybe they thought, okay, you've hallucinated or something. They didn't think that he actually saw it. Things are good for a while. And then this next thing happens in the 1960s. So at least more than 10 years since the
First sighting.
the most recent incident. Because it was 1949,
Okay.
1950. Then he lays low for like 10 years.
Okay.
This is the 1960s. The tunnel by this point is kind of a party spot.
Oh.
Not the tunnel. There's tunnels.
Okay.
People like to go to the tunnels and just party.
That sounds unhygienic.
I mean, I don't think the tunnels are used as like steam or anything at this point. They're just tunnels.
Okay.
Don't you want to
No.
party in the tunnels?
No.
Okay. Well, these frat bros brought 3 pledges to the catacombs to haze them.
Of course.
And they went through Gambrell's basement.
Okay.
Gambrell is a big, low, hulking, vibrating building on campus.
Yes, that has windowless classrooms.
Windowless classrooms. Zoe and I had a poetry class in the heart of Gambrell once. And when I say vibrated, I'm serious. Like
the desks would shake randomly.
yeah. Is it weird that like Gambrell's one of my favorite buildings on campus?
Yeah.
Okay. How did we establish that? So they went through Gambrell's basement into, I guess, a catacomb that supposedly had an entrance there. I can't verify this. I could not verify this. I don't know if I pronounced the T very well in that.
Okay.
Then they go to the Horseshoe in the tunnel system, and they run into a third-eye man.
Of course.
This guy's still in silver clothes.
Okay.
I don't know if he just keeps this one outfit very pristine or what happens, because if I hear gray, I'm like, okay, gray. Silver makes me think something's reflecting off of something.
Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's from the future.
Maybe he is.
Yeah.
He could totally be. Anyway, the third-eye man was like, no, this time you're in my home. And
Right.
he had a lead pipe. And he chased them.
What?
He had a lead pipe. And he chased them away. And apparently, he at least hit one of them. Everybody was fine. But one guy was like, had a little bit of markings from the lead pipe. But anyway, they all ran away. They contact the police, file a report, and then the police search the tunnels for the third eye man. And this is the first time, you're actually getting an organized search party on this guy. They were like, we're going to find this guy once and for all. He's not going to terrorize anybody else. They don't find him.
Okay.
And after that, they seal off most of the catacombs and made them off limits to students.
Because of the third-eyed man or because of other issues?
For the sake of the story, and I'm going to kind of like get into things later, I'm going to say for the third-eyed man.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure. But I just wanted to point out that USC has its own Forbidden Forest. Because it's like, you're not allowed to go to the Forbidden Forest in Hogwarts, and we're not allowed to go in the catacombs.
Does Harris Pastides, the president of USC, force children to go in there as punishment for detention?
No, I get the sense he's a lovely man and wouldn't do that.
What you trying to say about Dumbledore?
He had questionable principling skills. There were other sightings reportedly in the 80s and 90s, but none that were documented with the school newspaper, the Daily Gamecock. And here's the kicker, and the reason that this wasn't an episode on its own. I found multiple sources saying that the Third Eye Man was likely a creative writing project.
Right.
Like somebody's in their creative writing class, writes a story that kind of that seems like a real report of something.
Gotcha.
And then post it on the internet, and...
So you couldn't find, like, the actual Daily Gamecock articles that were talking about the sightings?
No, actually, in fact, I found a Daily Gamecock article that said that they went through the archives looking for the sewer man, because that's what they said they wrote about, and there's no mention of the sewer man.
Gotcha.
So it's like somebody, probably I saw in the late 90s, wrote about this, and which makes sense because I looked when you'll find certain sources that say, like, okay, these two things happen, and then you'll find another one say, okay, that happened in another thing, and you eventually piece them all together into a cohesive story.
Right.
But in this case, it was like every website said those same three instances.
Gotcha.
So I am leaning on the side of it probably was a creative writing project. Now, of course, I'm going around, and I can't know for certain, because the whole thing is nobody posted it saying it was a creative writing project.
Right.
Which gets us a little bit into a fun discussion of fake lore versus folklore. Have you heard of fake lore? I didn't until recently.
Yes, I have. Because the Slender Man is that same way.
Yes, Slender Man is a really good example of that. So fake lore, for people who don't know, it is when you write or share a story saying that it is not only true specifically to a certain area, I think, but that also it's been talked about.
Right.
So then suddenly people will be talking about it, and it will make its way into being common legend, even though it's not traditional folklore, which comes about by people talking about it to one another, which is a lot of what we like to talk about. I love covering folklore. But in the case of the Third-Eyed Man, I'm not too mad about it.
Right.
Just because it seems like, okay, yeah, in the 90s, fake lore, but it's become so loved by the people who are at USC that I think we've turned it into our folklore.
Yeah, and honestly, all folklore stories start as fake lore,
Well, I mean, I think that's...
I mean, there's always a grain of truth somewhere, but we can't track the stories of the Yeti to its source. We can find early instances of people talking about the Yeti, but we can't find the first one because we can never prove that it's the first one, because 20 years from now somebody can find another story from 20 years before that first one. And so with the invention of the internet and with stories starting on the internet, we can track how these stories start.
Yeah.
And then we can see what it becomes. Like, again, Slender Man. We know exactly how Slender Man started. However, there's this theory that, like, if enough people believe in something, it will come into existence.
I don't follow that.
No.
I mean, as in I don't believe in that. I follow your logic. But, yeah. But, anyway, we can't do a USC episode without talking about the Third Eye Man just because it is so prevalent. And also, I didn't actually know about the Third Eye Man, but, like, while I attended, and especially when I lived on campus, because even with the probable knowledge that it was a creative writing project, I would not like to walk around at night alone, which I did a surprising amount. Don't do that, guys. But, like, I would be freaked out even knowing that it probably wasn't true.
And I walked by quite a few open manhole covers in my time there.
Should really close those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of them had the 4 cones around it with the caution tape.
Oh, they did
so
that
it's
a
like
lot,
they were doing work on it, but
yeah. One fun thing I just kind of want to end this little story on, because it really is a little story.
Right.
I went on a ghost tour of USC's campus. Did you go with me that one time?
No.
It was the Horseshoe. Okay, well, I went on it in the Horseshoe at, like, Halloween, and a lot of the stories they shared were things that I know didn't originate from USC just because I had heard them associated with, like, the coast, or I had even read them in other books about ghosts from a different state.
Okay.
And they didn't bring up the Third Eye Man. And I'm just like, come on, guys, if you're gonna, like, appropriate other ghost stories for our campus, at least bring up the one that originated here.
Though, I guess they probably weren't, like, thinking that the Third-Eyed Man is a ghost
I don't think he's
story.
a ghost. And I know a lot of what we're doing is, like, ghosts, but
that's folklore. That's a...
folklore, urban legend.
Cryptid.
I mean, I think he's just a guy. I mean, I don't think he exists, but if he existed, I think he would just be a guy.
I think for Halloween, I'm going to go as the Third-Eyed Man.
I would love that. Can you wear, like, a silver disco costume?
I already have silver booty shorts, so... I'll go as the Third-Eyed Thought. How about that?
Yes! Oh my god, can
Robin
you actually
is way
do
too
that?
excited about that.
Can you do that?
Sure.
Yay!
Okay.
I'm so happy. Okay, anyway, that is the story of the Third-Eyed Man at USC.
Okay. So, my story, Robin has already talked about the Horseshoe. So, for those of you who don't know, USC is a very, very old school. There was, I don't know if I should say his name or not. So, I was an orientation leader at USC. I was there for the year of 2016. And I had a fellow orientation leader on the team who is a musical artist. And so he actually developed, like, a song for the orientation leaders to sing.
Okay.
It was really cool. But one line in it is 1801 was the year we were founded. And so I always will forever remember, thank you, Patrick, that 1801 was the year USC was established, which is a very long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
USC started on the Horseshoe. So the Horseshoe is like this garden area that has a path that's shaped like a horseshoe.
We're very creative with our naming.
Very creative. And there's a bunch of buildings along the Horseshoe. And 3, potentially 4, of the buildings are haunted. So I'm going to cover the 3/4 buildings that are haunted on the Horseshoe. And the Horseshoe is not where the student union is anymore. The student union is 1 block over next to Longstreet Theatre. But I consider Longstreet Theatre kind of part of the Horseshoe. It's not on the Horseshoe. It's just 1 road over.
Yeah, it's very close.
It's very close. The reason I say 3, maybe 4, is because that there's 2 buildings that are very different, but it's easy to get them mixed up because they are both very important to President James McKissick, and they both were once libraries. One is currently a library, but the other one's the museum. So there's the South Caroliniana Library, but there's also the McKissick Museum. And so I believe it's the South Caroliniana Library that's haunted, but people were getting it confused with the McKissick Museum. And there was actually one video I saw that was clearly an out-of-towner who said, you know the monument that's in the center of the Horseshoe? I think it's called, like, the Maxwell Monument. But they were like, oh, that's McKissick's grave. And it's like, no, that's not McKissick's grave. And that's the same person who was saying that the McKissick Museum was the haunted building.
Oh, yeah, don't trust that person.
Yeah, don't trust that person. He is in my sources, but don't trust that person. Just because there's a comment in his YouTube video of somebody talking about their haunted experience. So, I'm going to assume it's the South Caroliniana Library. So, to give you a little bit of history, Like I said, the former president, James McKissick, was the person that library is closely tied to, but it was built way before he was around. So it was constructed in 1840, and it is the oldest freestanding college library in the entire United States of America. So it was one of the few buildings not occupied by the Confederate hospital during the Civil War, because during the Civil War, the entire Horseshoe was actually transformed into a hospital for the Civil War. They treated Union and Confederate soldiers alike. The South Caroliniana Library. That's such a hard word to say.
There's at least 2 syllables that don't need to be there.
Yeah. It started off as just a normal library, you know, but then the Civil War happened and they stored all their valuables in there. The South Carolina fire started during the Civil War, and it burned down most of the buildings, but not this building, so it survived. It did burn down the State House, however. So after the Civil War and during Reformation,
Reconstruction.
During
the Protestant Reformation.
I think I even have it typed in my notes as Reconstruction. Anyway.
Okay.
During the Reconstruction, they used it as the place to meet instead of the State House, because the State House was burned to the ground and going under Reconstruction. So yeah, they met in the Caroliniana building. But then President James McKissick came along, and they were going to transform it, I think, into a building for like classrooms and stuff like that. But he was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to place very valuable Southern culture, literature in here. So anything that has to do with history, literature, or culture of South Carolina, it became a special collections library to hold those materials.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's why it's called the South Caroliniana Library, because it's relating to South Carolina. That's what the "ana" means.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
Thank you. I didn't know that. I just thought, that's fancy.
So McKissick was one of the most popular USC presidents.
It's a difference. A small difference.
Small difference.
But a difference.
Like, I honestly think right now, only Harris Pastides comes second to him. Like, he was so loved. Mm-hmm. So much so that when he died while he was still in office, the students actually petitioned to get him buried on the Horseshoe. Mm-hmm. And that he was right in front of the South Caroliniana Library. And Robin, I've already shared this fun fact with you, but I was like, you know what? Where he's buried is within 5 yards of where I took my graduation photos. So let me look through those photos, and sure enough, you can see his grave in my graduation photos. So that's fun.
It's really prominent. It's right there. I would walk by there every day because I lived across the street.
Yeah.
I walk by that guy's grave so often.
So that's the history. So people say that he haunts the South Caroliniana Library. And because it's a special collections library, you have to get permission to be able to go into it. So, like, one of my teachers actually tried to get us to go into there, and they denied him because there were too many students that would be going at the same time. So it's very special access. They make it, the only time people go in there is for usually grad students doing research or very special promotion events. Like if Obama came to USC and said, "Let me see it," they'd be like, "Are you sure? I mean, I guess." So it's very special, so nobody can get in unless they're supposed to be there. And yet, students walking on the Horseshoe will see lights turn on after the building's closed. There's not supposed to be a single soul in there when the building's closed.
Huh.
So they'll see lights turn on and go off and things like that. They'll see figures in the window. The students who are lucky enough to get in, they have seen him, like, going around a corner, but when they follow around that corner, he's gone. They've seen him, like, from a distance, like, perusing the books, but then they do, like, the double take thing, and then he's gone. They see things levitating in the air. So, like, they'll see, like, a pen just crossing, like as if he's holding the pen and walking, you know? There'll be cold spots. Doors will slam shut on their own, which I don't think is McKissick, because I don't think he'd slam any doors, because this is his beloved child. I don't know who else it would be, though. People will like, leave something and then come back, and things will be rearranged.
Oh.
Yeah. But I do have to say, I did not see a single report about, like, the protected things being moved or damaged or anything like that. So, I think he's a very respectful ghost. Because this is his child, essentially.
Yeah.
But yes, so that's the Caroliniana Library. So I don't have to say that again. So the next one is the Desasure.
Oh, I have no idea how to pronounce that one. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Desar?
Desasure.
Actually, it might be Desar.
Desasure. Desar. Sure.
I don't know.
If you say it French, it'd probably be Desasa.
Okay, the Desasar. We should really know this.
Yeah, I mean, I never entered this building, honestly.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I should know that, but I don't.
So this is currently a dorm/office building, but it was originally built as a dorm/classroom building. It's changed so much over the years. Is that fake gasping?
No, it's real. I had a job interview there, and they did say it was haunted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was built in 1809. The building has survived an earthquake, a student mob, of which there were many.
There were a lot.
They
tell you this
many.
like on orientation. They're like, and then they burned the steps, and then they burned the steps again, and then we rebuilt them as concrete, so they wouldn't do that again.
Yep, because that was where the professors lived. It wasn't this building.
They burned the steps so the professors couldn't leave their house and teach them.
Yeah, and then they rebuilt the steps, and then the students burned it down again.
And then they did it concrete, so you can't burn concrete.
Yeah. So there were so many mobs, and then there's the USC Clemson mob.
I really don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Basically, I considered adding it here, but basically, Clemson lost a game pretty badly, and so their students that were in town, but they were part of, like, the marching band or whatever, because they had, like, a bunch of bayonets, like, marched on the Horseshoe. And so, but all the USC students had to hide, but then a group of the students were like, you know what? We're going to fight back. And so they, like, fought back.
This was a mini war. Like, actually a war.
They literally call it the Battle of, like, 1902 or whatever. No, it wasn't 1902.
So
yeah, it was
funny.
But,
oh my God.
So, like, luckily nobody died. Okay.
Okay, good.
But so they were able to, like, calm things down. But every year USC, on the anniversary of it, does the tiger burn. So what happens is
That's the tiger burn.
The engineering students build, like, a 50-60 foot tiger out of wood and paper, and in the middle of a field, and every year all the USC students gather to watch the tiger burn down to the ground.
Oh yeah, guys, this rivalry is not fake. It's not put upon. It's like, it's real.
But yeah, so it survived a student mob. I don't know which one this one was.
Desastre.
Yeah, the Desastre.
You don't have to pronounce anything.
No, I don't.
I said we.
Oh, okay.
I was helping you there.
And it was also burned during the burning of South Carolina after the Civil War, where the State House was burned down.
Oh, yeah.
So the West Wing was completely destroyed, but the rest of it survived, and so they just rebuilt the West Wing. So during the Civil War, it was part of the hospital. So a lot of soldiers died there. And then during the Columbia Fire, it caught fire with the patients still inside. So a lot of them died during the fire.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was kind of sad. But then after the war ended, the U.S. Army took over and used it as a federal prison for war crimes. So in the wings where the patients currently were, they turned it into a prison. And so a bunch of Confederate soldiers were kept there. Well, not soldiers, probably like the higher ranking lieutenants and stuff. Mm-hmm. They were kept there, and then the trials happened in the center.
Oh.
Yeah. With every prison, people die in that time. So, because they weren't exactly taken the best care of. So, lots of soldiers have died there. Then in 1866, the building was converted back into a normal dorm/school building. And then in 1867, the building was used as a medical school. It closed in 1873, was converted back to student dorms. But in 2009, facility workers were just kind of cleaning up the grounds and found skeletal remains.
Oh, shoot.
And they were like, first of all, the assumption was, oh my God, somebody was murdered at USC, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they dug and dug and dug, and they found a cadaver pit. So I didn't find how many bodies were found, but they found enough to call it a cadaver pit.
Yeah.
So basically what the medical school would do was take the cadavers that they were probably not donated, because most of the bodies that were found were Afro-American. Okay. And they would take those bodies, do whatever they had to do to learn, and then throw them into a unmarked grave in the back of the building. Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of bad juju here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of it.
Oof.
Dead soldiers.
How did we not know about that?
Oh, I knew about that.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so the back of the building is the side off the Horseshoe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they found many bodies back there. And when I heard about it, everybody was saying they were the bodies of slaves. But when I was doing my research, this is post-war. So, like, it wasn't even a medical building until 1867. So it probably wasn't, quote-unquote, slaves.
Okay.
So, yeah, lots of issues there. But all those facts and statistics, and the only ghost I can find is the daughter of Dr. Black. So I couldn't find any, like, actual evidence this happened. But the story goes is Dr. Black was killed by Confederate soldiers. And so his daughter was upset, obviously. So she poisoned some wine and gave it to the Confederate soldiers that killed her dad. So she accidentally drank the wine as well and then ended up killing herself on accident. So they say that her body and the Confederate soldiers are still haunting the building. And there have been sightings of a woman with long, dark hair. And they can hear her screaming, laughing. They see soldiers in Confederate gray uniforms marching outside the building. And they hear male voices. So, that aren't coming from alive humans. Also, students have heard screams through the building. As if it was... They say it sounded like people being operated on. But I'm like, well, how do you really know what a scream is, like, the cause of it is, if you can't see it?
Yeah.
So
there's lots of things.
Yeah. But they tie it to the patients who died in the hospital.
Okay.
And then, so there's also another story of a woman who was raped and then killed by a Union soldier. And so people say that she'll attack Northern students as they walk by at night. Yeah. Which is like, that's a weird thing to make up, you know? So I guess I don't know.
To be honest, I can actually see people making that up pretty easily because, like, okay, there's a lot of out-of-state students that come to South Carolina, like the UofSC, because we have pretty low out-of-state rates. So I can totally see, like, some person native to the area being like, they get the Northerners. She gets the Northerners.
Yeah. So the third building, / fourth, depending on how you see the first building, is the Longstreet Theatre that Robin mentioned.
Yay.
And like I said, this one is technically one street over, but it is right next to the student union, and it's literally like you can walk out the back end of one of the Horseshoe houses, and it's right there in front of you, you know?
It is close enough to count.
Yes. So technically, the Longstreet Theatre isn't part of the Horseshoe because it was built so much later than the rest of it, because the rest of it was built in 1801. This was built in 1851, so 50 years later.
Wow, so recent.
Well, so it's actually gone under a lot of construction. So originally it was supposed to be a chapel, but like they gave the contract to build it to this one group of people, but they like ended up laundering the money or something. And so they had to give the contract to somebody else, but then they got sick, and so they gave the contract to somebody else, and like it just wasn't working. The building was poorly built. It went under redesign. It never became a chapel. It was supposed to be a chapel, but it never was one. It kind of was still being built during the Civil War, and so it was used as a hospital and a morgue. Okay. So that's where all the dead bodies were kept. And then once it was, no longer a morgue, it was a meeting place, but then the acoustics were so crap that they ended up going somewhere else.
Wait, the acoustics were crap?
Yeah, the acoustics were terrible. I know what you're thinking, Robin, but I don't know. Because it's currently a theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's literally called the Longstreet Theatre. Mm-hmm. But I'll get to it.
Okay.
But after it was a morgue, it was an arsenal and an armory, and then it was a science building, which makes sense because the building that's a science building is literally across the street in the other way now.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, technically it's like 3 buildings, but it's all one building. It's really weird. I got lost in there once. I also had a job interview there once.
Oh, cool.
I did not get it.
Okay. It is easy to get lost there.
It is. And then after that, it was a gym where they did renovations, added a pool, right? And fixed the acoustics issue for some reason. Don't know why.
Good.
And then when it was done being a gym, they made it a theater. And that's as we know it. So people experience cold spots. They feel uneasy in the building. They hear odd noises. And they see people that disappear in front of them.
Love that.
Yes. So they hear doors slamming shut, floorboards creak, footsteps, and they see elevator doors open and close and move with nobody calling the elevator. Which, honestly, that could be old building probs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the reason I included it here, even though there's not, like, one specific apparition, is because I had to walk through Longstreet Theatre to get from anywhere I was in campus to my dorm.
But you went inside Longstreet Theatre?
There's an open part. So Longstreet Theatre, it's the front theater, and then there's this
courtyard?
Courtyard,
yeah.
Yeah, and then it's the back classrooms of the theater. And so I had to walk through that courtyard to get from Russell House, the library, all of that, to my dorm.
Okay.
And I hated having to cross over it every single time.
Why?
I just didn't like it. It felt weird and creepy because it had that fountain that had the dirty brown water that just dripped. It felt gross and weird. And then I read it and it's like, people feel uneasy. And I was like, huh.
Can I just say I love it. So I have not, to my recollection, gone into the courtyard, though it is very possible that I did, but I would walk by the courtyard very often, and this is just, I think, a testament to my general obliviousness about these things, because I was like, man, what a nice, picturesque courtyard. Like, I specifically liked that courtyard.
That's the creepiest courtyard I've ever seen. It's so small and barren and has a malfunctioning water fountain.
Well, I guess I didn't get close enough to see that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did like the courtyard.
But
that's not me saying that there wasn't anything to feel uneasy about there. I'm making fun of myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys want to see some, like, more personal stories on the internet, you can go to a couple of my links. There's hauntedplaces.org and the YouTube video. They have comments on them where you can read some people's stories. They talk about different buildings than the ones I spoke about, but they're kind of interesting to read, but I don't want to read them on the air for liability purposes, I guess. Mm-hmm. So Robin, the reason anybody has listened to this far, please tell me your personal story.
Oh, I am happy to do it. Okay, so first off, I want to preface this by saying, like, every and all haunted experiences that I've had, I don't know if it was a true haunting experience, you know? Okay. That being said, out of all of the experiences I have had, this is probably the one I think is most likely to actually have been something. And there are exactly 3 that I think are very possible to have been something.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have been to my dorm room.
Mm-hmm.
It is in Columbia Hall, which is one of the corners of campus.
Right.
There's only one dorm near it, and that is Capstone. I texted my former roommate about this, just so she would know what I was talking about. And we both know that we don't remember everything, just because there's a part of the story where she told me something, and I know that she doesn't actually remember seeing what she told me at the time that she saw, and I believe that she saw. And there's something that another friend, talked about with me, because I was telling her about this experience, and I was like, yeah, didn't that happen? And she brought up a whole thing that I had mostly forgotten about, but kind of almost vaguely remember now. And anyway, my roommate texted me and said, I wonder if there was a reason we forgot about some of these things. So I have 3 big things I want to talk about, but there could have always been things interspersed in there that I don't remember. Okay, the first one, in what order do I want to do this in?
Chronological?
The thing is, I don't remember what happened first.
Oh.
So, okay, I'll go with the first one. So I know this was in March of 2016. My roommate came back from Bible study. Well, actually, my roommate was at Bible study. I was in my dorm room bed, which was pretty far back from the window. And I was watching BuzzFeed Unsolved. And the thing is, by this point, I knew that I suspected my dorm room was haunted. Mm-hmm. So I was feeling a little bit on edge, and plus BuzzFeed Unsolved wasn't helping this. And I was getting to a part in the episode where it was starting to say they would hear feet above them, like somebody walking, even though nobody was supposed to be there because it was an attic. And I consciously took out my earphones, and I was like, I'm just going to wait until my roommate gets back, because then I'll just feel safer listening to this. I'm not scared when somebody's in the room with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed on my bed, and I went to the bathroom, which it's important you know that this is not near the window. And then I came back, and that's all the movement I did. She came back from Bible study. She brought me back a cookie, because they had offered people cookies, and she was like, oh, I thought if I got you one. And then she's there for a few minutes, just moving around. I'm going back to listening to BuzzFeed Unsolved, and she says, were you by the window earlier? And I said, no. And she said, okay. And I said, why? In that exact voice. And she said, no reason, or something like, I don't want to talk about it, or something like that. And I was like, please say why. And she was very much like, this was probably nothing. It was probably, like, she really didn't want to tell me about it. I had to kind of, like, get her to say it. Mm-hmm. And she said, I was walking toward, the hall and, like, the dorm building, and I saw what I think was, like, a woman at our window. Like, she must have been looking, she was standing right there, and she must have been, like, looking in her direction, because my roommate said she just brought her hand up and waved, because, she thought, that's our dorm room. She thought it might have been me. Maybe, because she asked if I was at the window. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's why she waved, because this person was looking out. And...
Wait, the person at the window waved, or your roommate waved?
My roommate waved.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so I told her, and I was like, well, I wasn't by the window at all. And so she said, okay, it probably wasn't our dorm room.
Right.
And I looked at it because, okay, during Halloween, we kind of went all out, and we put Halloween decals onto the window.
Oh.
And this was March, because we kept them up. Okay. Oh. And I was like, did it have Halloween decals on it? And she said yes. And I said, then it was our window.
Because nobody else would have Halloween decals up at March.
Nobody else would have Halloween decals up. And the thing is, okay, so there was a figure of a woman. Okay. And she didn't even say a figure of a woman. She said a woman was standing there looking out.
Okay.
So there was a woman standing out looking out. And I was racking my brain. And this is why I paid very close attention to where I had been. Because I know my movements of that night very specifically, because I've thought about it so many times. And I was like, was I at the window? And I wasn't. And the thing is, even if I had gone that way, which I'm certain I didn't, I couldn't have stood close to the window for her to have been able to really see me, because there was, below my window, there was a mini fridge, and above the mini fridge was resting a microwave. So because of those two appliances, I would not have been able to stand at the window. Mm-hmm. And also, just so you know, those two appliances would never look like a woman, because all you would be able to see was the tiny box of the microwave at the very bottom of the window.
Very boxy woman.
Yes, very boxy woman indeed. Anyway, so that was the only time anybody saw, if my dorm was haunted, it was the only time anybody saw it as a full figure.
Okay.
And my roommate, by the way, doesn't remember seeing it, but like, this did happen.
Right.
And she believes that it did happen.
Right.
Well, I mean, she believes that we had that conversation and everything.
And, you know, I've told my stories about talking to ghosts that I don't remember, but all my family members are like, no, you've told it. Like, we've seen this.
Yeah.
So I 100% believe that there's, like, a part of our brains that try to protect us.
I totally agree, too.
Yeah.
Speaking of that part of your brain trying to protect us, I brought this up to a friend of mine just because last year I was starting to listen to real life ghost stories. I was watching Haunting of Hill House. I was really kind of going through my past experiences and being like, have I seen a ghost? Has this happened? And I brought up my dorm room to her because, like you, she was in my dorm room quite a lot. And she was like, oh yeah, it was really creepy. And, you know, with the shadows. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, you would show me the shadows. And of course I asked her to explain, and she said that we would be hanging out in my dorm room and there would be shadows moving on like the window and the wall. I think maybe specifically the window a lot of the time, but I can't remember exactly because I don't remember.
Right.
And I pointed them out to her and I was like, look at these shadows. This happens sometimes. And there's nothing that corresponds with it because we looked around, we looked outside, there was nothing that would have been casting a shadow, and the shadows moved.
Right.
And I don't remember this completely. I'm getting like, oh yeah, that happened. But I don't remember it happening more than once. And to be honest, it could totally be me creating a memory just because she told me about it. But yeah, I don't remember, but apparently it happened quite a bit.
Okay.
And then the final thing that happened in that room, which is to me the most scary, I think. Well, the first thing with the window thing was kind of, because the thing is I was already weirded out.
Right.
And sometimes that can always be me feeling uneasy in general, you know?
Right, yeah.
Like that maybe I was sensing something for once.
And maybe you weren't afraid when there's somebody else because the being wasn't there when there's multiple people, you know?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in this case, she was. In this next story I have.
Okay.
I was sleeping one night.
Okay.
Like I tend to do. And I was sleeping on my side, which is kind of rare for me. Or maybe it was kind of on my stomach. Anyway, something shook my left shoulder awake. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I don't even know what time it was because I didn't even check a phone or anything. But it shook my left shoulder. I wheeled around. I woke up really quickly. I wheeled around and I just saw the flash of white leaving my shoulder. And I turned completely around. Nothing was there. My roommate was across the room in her bed. I would have heard her had she been going back, and honestly, she wouldn't have been able to move that quickly that I couldn't turn around with the speed I did and see it. So I just, in my mind, it was a hand.
Right.
I didn't see necessarily a hand, and it really was just a little flash of white. But I was shaken awake. Something shook me awake, and then I saw something.
Right.
Leaving. And it was one of those things where it must have caught me in just the right or wrong stage of sleep, because I went right back. I was like, oh. I know. And the thing is, that's totally outside of my character.
Yeah, you would have woken your roommate up and been like,
what the heck? But no, I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't even know, maybe in the moment I didn't even register it as that. I just know what I saw and what I felt, and I looked over and I was like, well, my roommate wasn't trying to get my attention. I'm going back to sleep. And I went back to sleep, and I didn't remember this until the next afternoon. My roommate had gone home for the weekend. This was a Friday afternoon. I had gotten off my last class, and I had about an hour before I was going to meet a friend in the lobby to go out to dinner. and I was going to take a nap because I guess I was tired because maybe I got woken up in the middle of the night. And I laid my head on my bed, and I suddenly remembered what happened. Oh. And I was like, oh my God. And I just remember somehow I got up from my bed. I went over to the sink. I guess I was like looking in the mirror. I don't know why I would look in the mirror. Maybe I just needed to I don't know. I was gathering myself at the sink. Like I was probably like really nervous and scared. I remember just leaning forward on it with my hands. Out of the corner of my right eye, I see movement, and it's not anything ethereal. My roommate on her side of the room, hanging from this little square out of the because it was like ceiling, square that goes in, and then wall. So hanging from the square, she had printed out on just regular pieces of paper photos of families and friends hanging from string, like strung up there, and they were shifting and moving, almost like wind was being blown back and forth. But the vent wasn't, and this just shows you how much I cataloged everything that was going on, because I would not be able to tell you where a vent is in other situations, but the vent was not in the middle of the room, but it was like closer to my side. It was between the middle and my side, and from where I was standing, I was like, it doesn't feel like the air conditioning is on any more than usual. I don't feel any sort of an air current or breeze. I don't typically see those photos move.
Right.
And I was like, they're just moving now that I've remembered this. And then I left the room, went down to hang out in the lobby for an hour, which is a thing I never did. And then I left with my friend to go get dinner because I wasn't going to be in there any longer than I had to. Anyway, those are my 3 haunted experiences in my dorm room.
Well, thank you.
What are your opinion of them? Because it could be... What are your thoughts?
I remember you telling me the hand story when it happened. Not when it happened, but like at that time period, you know? Yeah. So I was like, well, I was going to talk about the hand story when you were in between the second and third, because you were talking about how you don't remember anything. I'm like, oh my God, if this next story isn't that story, I'm going to bring it up and be like, what about the hand, Robin?
What about the hand? No, trust me, I remember the hand. And the hand one, just because I think I think the one I pay a lot of attention to was the one where my roommate saw the person in the window.
Right. But
then sometimes the idea of the hand crops up again and again. It's just one of those things that kind of stays with you. Like, yeah. I think I might have been shaken awake by a ghost.
Yeah. No, I totally believe them. That dorm room, like...
But you told me you didn't experience anything odd
I didn't experience anything there, no. The oddest I'd have to say is when we went and we had the horror movie night.
We had quite a few horror movie nights,
yes,
honestly.
Yes.
And there was nothing weird going on in the room. It was just, we're watching a horror movie.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's an older dorm room and building, and...
Yeah. I think it was the 1960s, but again, I just don't... I tried to look up the history of it, and I really couldn't find anything.
And it just had those, like, older kind of creepy building vibes anyways, you know? Like, it had the flickering fluorescent lights, and it's a little bit too dark all around for some reason kind of things. And I remember, like, every time I went to go visit you... Because the way your dorm rooms were set up was like we had
lived on the corner, so we had, which is actually really convenient because we had a better amount of suite space.
Yeah, yeah. But you had like that common room that your suite mates could go into their room and you could go into your room, and then you had to walk basically through your kitchenette to get to your guys' beds.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, in that light in the common room. And the light in the kitchenette was always off, and it was always dark outside when I went to visit you. So,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just always like, oh, this is a dark, cringy building.
Sorry. But yeah, that is my haunting at USC story.
Yes, those were all of our... USC was very haunted. I mean, it was founded in 1801.
It's bound to be, yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy the history that accumulates in a space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
All right.
We both shared a story for the first time. Woo! All right, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friendo. This is the best way to let people know about your favorite podcasts.
Yes. And if you'd like to submit your own spooky stories, whether that be true crime, hauntings, whatever have you, please write and submit it to hauntedhospitalitypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to see our sources, excluding Robin's story, because her sources
I
are
am
her
my
memory.
own source.
Exactly. And our blog post, please go check out hauntedhospitality.wordpress.com.
Mm-hmm.
And also, hey, since we're having the special this month of haunted schools, if you've had a haunted school story, please submit that as soon as possible.
That'd be so fun.
Yes.
You can find us on Twitter at Haunted Hosts. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Haunted Hospitality. We would love to see you there.
Yes.
Stay spooky. Boom.
And stay in school.
And stay in school.